Hey, good afternoon. It's Matt Green. Welcome to our Real Insights live event this afternoon. I'm super excited about my guest, Blaine Larsen. Blaine's been in the business for a number of years, was actually Rookie of the Year when he first started, and has just some really fantastic insight about kind of his journey in the industry and his career as he's gone through different evolutions of the business, and certainly times when maybe his business has plateaued, and he's going to share some experiences with us today about how he's kind of pushed through those and found renewed energy and excitement for his business. If you're not following along on a normal basis with us, please make sure that you are following me on Facebook, facebook.com/Matt Green, Utah. And certainly, if you want to check out our regional website page, where we host many of these events, facebook.com/KW Utah. So without further ado, we welcome our guest, broker Blaine. Blaine, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Mr. Green. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you. It's hard not to be excellent with this beautiful day here in Utah. So, well, let's jump right into this. I mean, if you don't mind, let's start with, and I'd like to remind our listeners as people join us today, that we would love for us to address any questions and any feedback or thoughts. We'd love to share those. Let me just make sure that we're actually have gone live. Hold on 1 minute, Blaine, and I'll confirm that I know we had a few technical difficulties when we were first starting, right? So anyways, okay, I think we're live here finally. So if you don't mind, start out with sharing just kind of your pre-industry work experience and what led up to you finally getting into the real estate business.
Sure. So pre-real estate, I was a college student. I did a lot of back-breaking work. That's what I knew. That's what I was kind of good at. I left college. I didn't really see my future there, and I actually had moved to Colorado to join who now is my wife and live over there. I worked as a cable installer. Shout out to Ben Kenny. Even though he's the man, I have some relationship to him. Anyhow, I did that, and I just it wasn't there. I didn't have the future there, and I just was kind of spinning around, and I really didn't have a clear path on where I was going with myself.
So what was it that kind of triggered that thought process of a change? I mean, from cable installer to what event triggered an interest in making a change?
It started pre-real estate. I was installing cable, and it's funny, I had somebody tell me, while you're out there, you can actually sell cable and internet and phone, and you'll make additional money. And I said, I'm not a sales guy. I don't do sales. I'm a cable installer. It's what I'm good at, and that's where I'm going to stay. And the more I talked to customers and had some knowledge about what I was doing, it kind of just started trickling in that I was actually doing some sales in my business. And I watched my paychecks increase, and I saw that I was really good at it. One thing led to another, and the next thing you know, I'm a sales manager for our installation and sales company. So kind of a little spiral effect, and I learned I'm good with people, and I enjoy working with people and problem solving and helping people. So I went from there, and I actually transitioned, and I did some car sales for a little while, and this is all pre-real estate. And then that's kind of where we had a little bit of juncture. My wife had our first child, and she wanted to stay home, and I told her that in order to stay home, I needed the support, and I was going to hit real estate head on.
What did you learn from the car sales experience that you think translated ultimately into real estate?
I almost think I learned it a little bit more as a cable installer. It was taking care of people and really just problem solving them and taking good care of them. And that did trickle into why I did well at car sales as well. I was always a top salesperson there. But again, it came from less of sales approach as it did to just being a genuine person and trying to help people out.
Yeah, I think I mean, there's a lot of wisdom just in that, and being authentic, being yourself, and then being service oriented. You start with that, and immediately that resonates with people right off the bat, right? So car sales. You made this decision that you were going to get in real estate. At that time, you were still in Colorado, correct?
Correct. So I was originally licensed in Colorado, and that's where I went to school at. One of our big, I guess, ahas, if you will, that kind of taught me before I got in the business there was we sold our condo when we lived there. And we didn't have the greatest experience, and leaving that, it really left me with a clear vision on how I was going to do business when I got in the business, and how I'm going to take care of people, and how I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. And so although it was a rough experience for us, it really highlighted and kind of set the table for the way that I was going to deliver an experience for my clients. And so it ended up being a great thing that happened to us.
You know, it's funny that, and I've had the opportunity to talk with, hundreds and thousands of agents, and in many cases, I love asking them about their experience, about how they transitioned into the business, or why they decided to get into real estate. And it's funny how often it is because of a poor experience that they had with a transaction and their interaction with the real estate agent, and that they felt like, wow, that there's an opportunity for someone to do it better. And I think I could do it a lot better than the experience that I had. And so that's a common thread I hear frequently sometimes. And certainly, I get asked a lot of times, boy, there's so many real estate agents. Is there space for another agent if I'm thinking about getting in the business? And for me, I mean, the answer is always yes, because there's such a great opportunity for us to play at a higher level across our industry, I think, in many ways. Okay, so you decide to move to Utah. You talked Tammy into making the trek with you to Utah, largely because you had a sphere of influence here. You felt like you knew a lot of people here because of family and friends, et cetera. And so in doing so, you had to choose a brokerage. And tell us a little bit about, how you made that first choice, and what your experience was at that first brokerage.
You bet. And so we've been back here. This is our 12th year being moved back here. And to quote Tammy, she said, "I will never move to Utah," when we first met. So just to throw that one out there. And absolutely, I said, you know what? I know a lot of people in the state of Utah. I have a lot of great friendships. And so if we want to transition this where you're able to stay home and raise our children, which is what we both wanted, then I think that's the move we need to make. And kind of a no-brainer, I moved over here, and I had known Dave Weber, who I've known for many, many years since I was a little guy. And so I went in and said, "Hey, my real estate license should be here soon, and I'm signing up at your brokerage. What do? Let's move forward." Yeah, there was no interview. It was just, this is where I'm going because I know somebody over there.
And certainly, Dave Weber has just a phenomenal reputation here in the state, and a long-time real estate guy. We're not going to judge Tammy for not wanting to move to Utah. The real question is, does she not want to live in Utah still? That's the real question. We won't make you answer that. Okay, so tell us about those first handful of months. You chose a company to join, based largely on a relationship. And what was it in that first year? You had great success. You were Rookie of the Year for your office. What was it? Was there training that helped you accomplish that? What was it that allowed you to do that? And what specific activities did you do? And maybe it was right out of the gate, or maybe it took some time to kind of figure out what those activities were. But tell us a little bit about what those training opportunities were, what you leaned into to figure out the business, because those first years are really pivotal. When we look at number of agents that succeed in the business, the across the industry, not here just in Utah, not with any specific brokers, but across the industry, the failure rate of agents that come into this industry with high hopes, super excited about a new career, all these things that bring energy and excitement to something new. And I think the number is something like 80 to 85%. 80% fell out in the first year, and then another 5 to 7% fell out by year two. So we're down to like 10% actually make it beyond 2 years, and it might be even less than that last I read. So, what was it I know many agents are kind of trying to understand this. What are those things that you do in the first year that allow you to really set the stage for an ongoing career like you've had?
Right. So to sum that up, honestly, not to take too much away, partially a little bit of it was ignorance. Had you told me some of those statistics before I started, I might have put my tail between my legs a little bit. But you know,
ignorance is bliss sometimes, right? Ignorance is bliss.
Hey, I'm here as proof of that. But you know, lots of respect, as you said, for Dave Weber. He's been around for a long time, and he was a great wealth of knowledge to be able to turn to. But as far as training and what to do, you know, at that point in time, I'm not aware today, but at that point in time, it really wasn't there. And so my thought stuck with why I moved back to Utah, which was, I know of a lot of people. I need to be talking with these people. And so the very first thing that I did is I drafted a letter, and I said, hey, this is what I've got going on. This is what I'm doing, and I would love all of your help and support. And then from there, I just kind of kept following up with people. And so this was fall of 2006 is when I sent that letter out. And then it was reaching out and growing and asking people to, you know, I was asking other people, who do you know that I could stay in contact with and reach out to and see who I could help. And it was, again, it's just a genuine approach of I really want to take great care of you, and I know I can do that. And so who do you know that I can help out? And then the next thing you know, I get a call for a listing appointment and was terrified and didn't know what to do. And but that was my focus was finding people who knew me and trusted our relationships, that they would either, one, do business with me, or two, refer somebody else to do business with me. And that just kept sticking time and time again there through the first couple months. And so that was where my focus was. And that's all I focused on. And I'm not saying that's the only way to do business. However, I was really good at that. And so that's where I just continued to attack and grow and really work with the people that I knew.
So if we simplify that a little bit, I mean, really you sat down at the beginning of your career and identified a list of all the people you knew, and then sent them a letter basically saying, this is what I'm doing. I'd love to be of value and service to you. Please keep me in mind. How many people do you think you sent that letter to initially?
You know, I probably started somewhere around 100 people would be a quick guess. And, you know, it was just kind of scratching. We don't have the technology that we do today to be able to come up with who we know. So I remember doing the A to Z sheet and, you know, thinking of my accountant and somebody in the auto industry and finishing all the way through Z to really help me propel thinking and remembering the people that I knew, because again, we just didn't have the technology back then. And so, yeah, you bet it started at about 100 and it was getting the word out to people that knew me and trusted me.
So you sent out this letter to about 100 people, identified the people that you knew, and then business just magically showed up. You never had to call or email again or send a letter again. Like, what was the next step?
You bet. Shortly after that, I went to a conference, and one of the things that I did there is I got some magnets and and got set up on a mailer system. And you know, these are just very small touches, but you know, it was funny because as I was having conversations with people, they would let me know, hey, I woke up this morning and I saw your face on my fridge, and I quickly had to apologize because having to see this first thing in the morning probably isn't a great thing.
This is just a testament that it doesn't matter how pretty, it's just how often, right? They just need to see your
absolutely.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Absolutely. So what I was essentially creating is what we talk about now of doing, you know, a 33, 36 touch, but I was kind of just figuring it out on my own. And so, you know, I had sent that out with another follow-up to my people and just said, here, this is something of value. And people still actually have my original one on their fridge these days, which I think is awesome. And then I started sending out a monthly newsletter, which I still do to this day. And so, you know, I'll run into people all the time and they'll love the recipes and the value that comes with that. And I still use the same company and the same letter for over a decade now. And then I just started getting more specific. I said, okay, who are the people that are really helping me out here? who are the people that are kind of shuffling me under the rug, and who are the people that are my supporters, my number one supporters. And I remember we did have a training back then, and they said, identify your people and kind of classify those. And I know we go into a lot more depth these days with really identifying our A's, B's, and C's and kind of who helps us. But I started doing that and really was very purposeful on reaching out to them and seeing what I could do to help them, and then essentially asking who I could help out in the real estate world. And that kind of propelled me and just continued to grow my business and to grow my database.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if people don't understand this yet, that this is a database business, right? Building that database of people that you're going to touch consistently over time and remind them that you're their, value provider as it relates to real estate business. We've missed the boat, right? So even back in 2006, when you were starting, without potentially really great coaching to tell you exactly, you didn't have the benefit of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book saying 33 touch, 33 touches over the course of the year. You kind of started to figure that out. And tell us a little bit about this newsletter that you've been sending out your entire career. So it goes out monthly, and who creates that for you?
Yeah. So yes, I definitely should have beat old Gary Keller to the punch on the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. And just kidding. I signed up. It's a company called tpmco.com, the personal marketing company. Okay. I used to send them out monthly. I've kind of leveraged that and switched it around a little bit. So now they do an every other month newsletter for me. It's a great looking newsletter. It's large in size. It's easy to read, and it has value in it. And then every other month, I'll have some people in the industry that I work with help send out a newsletter for me. And then I always find it imperable since the very first year that I sent it out. I always like to send something out for Christmas that's just really just a personal, hey, I'm a real person here. I'm not spamming you. I care about our relationship. And I just hope you have a great holiday season. And this is what my family's been up to. And I hope that you had an amazing year. Nice.
At the end of the first year, how many people do you think you had on your list? So you started out with about 100. Do you have any idea what you grew
100
that year?
I don't have database numbers. I would say it probably increased by about 50. Okay. And I was working hard at it though. My siblings will still tell you to this day, I would call them and say, I need names and addresses and phone numbers of people that you know. Who are you working with? I need 6 by the end of the week. I mean, I was really pressing them to help me out and to grow that. And it's funny because at the time I didn't understand the importance of it. And now today I truly understand the importance of it because, people are looking at me and they, half of them I probably, maybe I haven't seen or whatnot, but they've been getting my newsletter for 12 years. And they know that, when it comes time for real estate, that I'm the guy that they need to give a call to.
Yeah. So Blaine, generally as it relates to generating business, we kind of bifurcate the activities towards marketing, which is kind of more passive. We're sending out newsletters or emails, those kinds of things. And then the other element is prospecting. And I would assume that that there was some element of more active phone calls, door knocking, whatever, going out and visiting people for you to get the kind of results that you did in the first year. So you've talked a little bit about your marketing efforts during that first year. What were some of the prospecting things that you were doing during year one that helped you get the results?
Well, another ignorance on my end is I wasn't a lead generator. I always heard that and I said, I don't do that. And the funny thing is that's what I've been doing since I got into business. And two things that I'll narrow it down to is one, I was very purposeful. When I met with people, when I talked to people, when I was in places, I was very purposeful. And secondly, I stayed in the avenue that worked well with me. I wasn't trying to fit a triangle into a square. I was working with who I was and who my personality was. And my personality is I love being around people. I love events. I love having get-togethers. I love seeing people. I love interacting with people. And so I held a lot of events. When I would be at an event, I was very purposeful. I would meet people and I would find out how I can continue to stay in touch with them. And then I was able to follow up and the invite. And so, we know now there should be about 6 touches around holding an event. And again, at the time I was doing that, just not to the level that I would do it today. But I was just staying very, very, and I continue to use the word I know, but purposeful, because you have to be purposeful. It's one thing to go somewhere. It's another one to get results from being somewhere.
So when you say purposeful, the dots that I'm trying to connect are that when you're at these events or when you're in those social settings, you're naturally just a social person. You're intentionally opening your mouth and making sure people are aware, just like you did with your siblings, like, hey, I'm in business and I need to know who you know that is buying or selling real estate. So it sounds like, your prospecting was very intentional, opening your mouth and having those conversations with people as you were, in those social events, right?
Absolutely. And curiosity and fulfilling that for people. Everybody, we in the industry think that everybody knows what's going on in the market and what their home's worth and what to expect out of the market and what's going on and where interest rates are and what loan options are out there. And we have this wealth of information that we have because, we're great at our career, and people want to know about that. And sometimes we assume that they know all that. And so a lot of it on top of who do you know and who can I help out? But it was just answering questions, being there for them, and then following up with them and saying, can I help show you what your home's worth? Do you know that you could probably buy a home right now, even though you think you don't? And so a lot of it was just being genuine and trying to help answer people's questions and let them know their position in the real estate world.
Yeah. Awesome. So that first year, did you just jump straight into it, or was there a transition period? Did you have some money set aside? Did you work 2 jobs while you're really starting your career as a real estate agent? Tell us quickly about that.
Sure. So when we moved over here, Tammy was actually still working at her career. She was in the banking business, and we knew it was a quick transition. And she was burnt out. She was frustrated. She wanted to be home with our daughter. And so we were kind of juggling all aspects. And that was my driver. It really was. It was, what do I do to solve this problem that we have here? And, to me, it was, I need to help more people. And the more she got frustrated, the hungrier I got. And, it took, a couple times I went to her work and she's crying or she's upset, and she doesn't cry very often, so she was probably just upset. But, I would go there and it would just eat at me. And finally I went there and I said, okay, here's my pipeline. Here's what I've got going on. I'm going to continue to work hard. I want you to turn in your notice. I want you to be home with our daughter. That's what she wanted, and that's what we wanted. And so it finally came down to that. And I think that was probably about maybe a 4 or 5 month transition from when my license came active to, her walking away from, she was 16 years in the banking business.
I love understanding that motivation piece, those things that really help us go, okay, I've got to get focused and I'm going to make this work. It's amazing what we can accomplish when we have the right motivation behind us, propelling us. So Blaine, before we transition into kind of the rest of your story and that, what your career path has looked like since being Rookie of the Year and starting, I know you've a number of agents within our company have gained great value from you in your mentoring and support and help, especially as you were in the broker role for a while for us. But if you wouldn't mind, maybe just share what any pieces of advice that you might share for a new agent that is either new to the business or thinking about getting in the business. What are those things that you'd really recommend and coach them to in that first year? And maybe it's some of the things that you've done, and maybe it's some of the things that you wish you have done, having gained the knowledge that you have now.
Sure. That's a lot, I guess, in my opinion, when I look back and what I could share or would love to share with somebody thinking about getting in the business is, it's not enjoying HGTV and doing this at a casual basis. It's just not that go golfing, all week long and cashing big checks. It's hard work and it's loving what you do and loving helping people. You're just not going to do well thinking, well, I'd love to go show people houses. So I think that to answer a couple questions. One of the wish I would have done was I wish I would have started building my systems, because unfortunately, after a decade in the business, I was the only one who knew how to run my business the way that I run my business. And so that, I'm sure we'll talk about later, but it was making that transition from me, being great at everything, to finding ways that anybody could kind of help me out with parts of it, so that I was doing what I was really good at, and that was out, helping and consulting people. Secondly, I know we just talked about this, but it's finding your hunger. It's why are you getting in the business? What do you expect to accomplish? And then going after it. You've got to be hungry toward your goal in order to have any kind of purpose in the business at all. Because if not, you're just not going to do the activities that you need to do to be able to help people out.
Amen. Yeah. I mean, I hear so frequently when I ask people why they're getting into the business, and it's because, oh, I love showing homes, and it's the HGTV kind of answer. Like, okay, well, I hope there's more to it than that, or you're going to be in big trouble. And getting that clarity in what that motivation is, and what that why is, and what's driving this desire to be successful in it, is key, because there are going to be times, without question, where the business is really hard. And what is it that's going to motivate you to do the things that aren't fun or easy in order to have the success that you want at that time? And really, that's having great clarity in what that motivation piece is. So, and I love what you said first, right? Immediately start thinking about your business as a business. Start treating it like that, where you're actually creating processes and systems, so that, one of the biggest challenges as agents, and the analogy that we use is the Greek mythology of Sisyphus, right? Sisyphus was the story where he pushed the rock up the hill, went home at the end of the day, worked all day long to push this rock up the hill, went home at the end of the day to show up the next day with the rock having rolled back to the bottom of the hill. And he starts over. And for a lot of us, including me, that's the definition of hell. Like, work all day long, but never actually see progress. And as a real estate agent, you can find yourself in that churn, that will of working all year long and maybe having great success. But if you haven't created models and systems within your business, you literally are starting over January 1st. There's no pipeline. There's no consistency that just shows up because you haven't been doing the right things that allows your business to start to be sustainable, predictable, etc. And so I think that's great advice. I frequently tell agents that this business is incredibly, incredibly difficult, but at year 3 and year 5, somewhere in that space, if you've done the right things during those first 3 years, it gets incredibly easier, just so much, much easier, because business starts showing up. Like, it just starts coming to you because you've done the right things. And so I appreciate you commenting on that. Well, let's kind of start now more on the next elements, or the next pieces of your business journey, your career journey. And so kind of tell us about the next handful of years. I think you made a brokerage change after a handful of years. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So again, a lot of love and respect for the Webbers and ERA Weber where I was. I learned a lot there, a lot of school of hard knocks there. And there was a ownership change that happened after probably 5 or 6 years of being there. And we ended up following one of the previous owners, and we went over to Utah Executive. I say we, there was a group of us realtors there who were really kind of close knit and kind of made a decision together. And so we went over to Utah Executive with Brent Bopp, who again has been around this industry for a very long time. And he wanted to kind of simplify things for him and his business. And so he kind of ran a straightforward kind of a, outside the industry probably won't get this, but more of a flat rate style company. And I thought it was great at the time, because I thought I had learned and known everything that I needed to know, because I was doing the right stuff to maintain a good business and a good business plan. And so to me, it was a great fit at the time. And it worked really well for where my business was and what my expectations of my business were.
Okay. So yeah, I think that we see agents kind of go through that migration, or at least contemplate that in many cases, where they've been in the business for a handful of years. They feel like they're kind of figuring it out. and then the value proposition from the brokerage becomes less clear to them. So they're like, wow, instead of maybe paying this much to the brokerage, what other options are available to me? And maybe they migrate to a low fee or flat fee brokerage where they feel like they know they're not getting any service there, and they don't pay for any service, right? So it's you pay for less, you get less, but you've kind of figured out the business. So maybe there's this assumption like, I don't see enough value from the brokerage, and so I'll go to one of these flat fee brokerages. And so you've made that transition. You were spending, how many years did you spend at that company?
Probably 4 to 5 years there.
Okay. And what kind of production were you doing when you finally decided to make a change? And then let's get into that story a little bit, because from my understanding, you kind of had reached a point where you were happy, satisfied with what you were doing, and then kind of came to this conclusion through attending this event, Mega Camp, that led you to think, okay, maybe there's time for a change. So talk us through that story a little bit.
You bet. So I was closing 24 to 35 deals a year when I was over at Utah Executive. I was okay with that. I really was. I made a good income. I serviced all of my clients myself, and I think I did a great job. And I do need to send a huge shout out to the people that have really supported me through all the years of this. And I know that there's a lot of options out there. So sorry, I'm going to take a quick takeaway from your question for 1 second, Matt, because I do need to thank all of the people in my database, my past clients, people that refer to me, because there's so many options out there. But I know that you guys know that I genuinely care and want to do my best for you. And I wouldn't be having this interview right now had you guys not supported me for the last 12 years. So thank you for that. And moving on, past that. So,
and Blaine, I gotta say, you've got such a great reputation in the industry. Just the way you do business, your colleagues, everyone just really admires the way you handle yourself, and I'm sure that translates in just such a big way to your clients, who obviously, you have the business because of that relationship and because of that respect, and people keep showing up because of that. And that has shown up in our industry as well. You're just such a well-respected person of our industry. So thank you for being such a great example to so many of us.
I appreciate that. And it's important to me, not only my client relationships, but other agent relationships, because, we can make things a whole lot easier on ourselves and really learn from each other as we grow here. So to kind of count down my final year with Utah Executive, again, I was doing just fine. I come from pretty humble beginnings. I was supporting my family. My wife was able to stay home. We could, support ourselves, and we were doing okay. And I didn't see anything wrong with that. And I didn't see any reason or purpose for change. And so this is 2016, and I got an invite to go to Austin, Texas, to go to Mega Camp. And I've been to conferences before, so it was just kind of one of those things of, I have been at a brokerage that doesn't provide these anymore, and I've never been to Austin, Texas. That was honestly my real reason for wanting to go. And
it was just to see Austin. Who was it?
It is. So Corey Burdiner, we were good friends at the time, and he would kind of make some pokes here and there about, a few things with Keller Williams, and he knew quickly I'd blow him off and let him know that I was happy and content with my business. And then he sent me the invite for Austin. And again, I went home to Tammy and I said, hey, what do you think about this? And she said, well, I don't know. What do you want to do? I said, well, I've never been to Austin. And she said, well, it sounds like you want to go then. And I said, sure. I'd always loved to see a new city. And so I called Corey and I said, you know what, I'll head down with you. And so this is a day and a half conference down there, and Austin was what it lived up to be. It was a lot of fun. And, but the meat and potatoes of this conference just left me with the question as I walked out of there, why? And it wouldn't leave my head. And we went back to the airport that final day and talked at the airport while we were waiting for our flights. And the continuous conversation in my head was why? And I thought, why aren't I doing more? why am I okay where I'm at? Why am I not helping others? Why am I not helping my community more? And I've been huge into my community, and I've had my own nonprofit for a long time, and I really like to give back. But I think letting my business become stagnant also let my purpose for helping others become a little bit stagnant. And so that came back, and so I couldn't stop hammering that out of my head. Why am I not helping more people? I'm great at my job, so why aren't I pushing to help more people? Why aren't I bringing people into my business who I can help give them a better life? Why aren't I hiring somebody to help me with some of these admin positions or other work that I'm not great at, that maybe they're great at, so that I can go help more people? Why am I not doing better for myself so that I can leave more for my children? Why am I not doing more for myself and my family so I can help somebody's family who's not doing so well? So the why question was just literally beating on the inside of my head after that conference.
That mega camp will do that to you for sure. That's been my experience. Okay, so from why to what, or how, or what next? What was the next? Because why is a good place to start, but then what happened?
Yeah, so I came back and as I started pushing some of the whys. I said, you know what? I'm going to start making some pushes here, but what do I do first? Do I stay with a company who gives me what I pay for? Or do I go with a company who's pushing me to ask myself why, and what else is that going to push, and where's the support that's going to help me solve that why? And so I struggled. And in turn of this struggle, which is, very quickly after coming back, I got invited to go attend Bold. And so I went down and I attended Bold, and I hadn't switched my license over to Keller Williams at that time. Started going through Bold. About halfway through Bold, I went ahead and switched my real estate license over to KW Legacy here in Layton. And I finished out the year of 2016. I think I had November and December under my belt here at KW. And the end of 2016, I ended up closing 31 transactions, 10 of which of those transactions I actually closed in November, December, all in relative from coming back from Mega Camp and from attending Bold. And, I don't even know how many transactions. I know there was a number of them in 2017 that actually closed in the same relation to that fall. But it was quite the eye opener. And so that just started making things roll. And so I asked Tammy what her interest was in the business, and she definitely has a level of support for me, and it helps her to understand the business now. So she went and got licensed. I helped my brother at the time, who I had helped open a lawn care company with him, and he had done really well growing it. He's always been great with people. People love him. And I had him go get licensed in the business. I hired my first admin so that I could get some support in my business. And I really became much more purposeful in creating what I should have started many years ago. I'm not sad that I didn't. I think that my journey's been great, and I've loved every aspect of it. But right now, I'm really helping to start answer some of those whys. We've closed more transactions by Tammy being able to assist some of things. My brother's been doing fantastic. He's bought a house and he's married and just had his first cute as ever little girl. And so some of my whys are happening. I now have somebody on staff that I'm paying a salary to, so I know that I'm supporting her. I'm able to give back and do a lot more in my community and help people out. So things are starting to happen with answering those whys, and I'm just sure glad to be on the journey I'm on right now.
Yeah, it's fun because I can see a lot of the passion that you have for your business. And anytime we're in that space, right, the work becomes less of a job and a lot more fun when we have that passion and focus of growing something, building something, and just really committed to it. Thanks for sharing that. I think certainly our opportunity to attend Mega Camp is that space where we really start to get our beliefs and our thoughts challenged, and those whys can start to lead to why not. Like, why wouldn't I want to, you know, have a business big enough that I can benefit more people and provide more value to the other people in my life, and give more to charity and do these things. And then ultimately to be surrounded by a number of people that are all in that space. And that's one of the things I love about that legacy office. And so many of our offices are this way, but we just have such a core group of neat people that are really challenging themselves, challenging each other, and going, okay, how can we really push ourselves to do more, to grow personally and develop more? And being in that space and surrounded with people like that, like-minded people that are really trying to do more and be more, there's something powerful about that, and it makes work a lot more fun, and certainly I think helps us get the best out of ourselves. And so it's fun to see you and all that you're accomplishing right now, and congratulations on your success. Very cool. So maybe tell us just a little bit. You've talked specifically about creating this team and building your business, and certainly we've seen the number of transactions growth that you've had over the last couple of years, which is super impressive. But tell us maybe a little bit about your lead generation strategy, because it can't be just bringing more people on. It's got to be in order to do more business, you just can't have more bodies. You've got to be more strategic in how to grow those opportunities and create those opportunities and lead generate. So maybe share with us a little bit about, how as a team are you focused on generating that business in this market?
You bet. So some of it, I honestly, I take back what I know is the way that I've done it. And so our focus has still continued growing our database and staying in front of them and in touch with them. We kind of have our little tweaks of doing that. I've really pushed my brother to the same thing that I did. I said, hey, we need to know everybody that you know. We need to have them in one place, and we need to reach out to them and let them know how we can help them. And so that was his big push. I remember one thing that he did early on that I thought was great, and I just love how it helped connect the dots. But he got on Facebook and he started reaching out to these people he hasn't talked to in years and years, and just said, how are things going? I want to create a closer relationship. We knew each other. We had great times in the past, and now we like and we'll comment here and there, and it's just kind of face value. And so his intention was deepening the relationship that he had with people. And the very first response he got back from somebody was, this is such a great idea. Do you mind if I take it? And it's not for the sales value of it, right? This is simply for, taking away these false relationships that we have, as everything's, online and via text and everything else these days. And just trying to deepen that up and just say, hey, I care. I want to know what's going on with you. By the way, if you have anybody, I hope that, our relationship helps, refer my name out to anybody looking to buy or sell. And if you're looking to do anything, I'd absolutely love to help you. But at the end of the day, I don't want a false relationship with you. And so it was just great. It kind of streamlined a little bit of people kind of reaching out and deepening that. And I thought that was really cool. To take advantage of our false relationships via Facebook and use that as a tool to then in turn deepen them. Another thing, we really like our client events. Again, that hasn't changed. We love being around people. We started one last year. Weber State football team had a great season last year, and unfortunately Ogden's small and they're not overly supportive of different things. And so we went and bought 300 tickets to that final game, and we barbecued and tailgated and just had a great time and just really enjoyed, again, deepening our relationships with the people that we know. It's so easy to get into false social media aspect relationships these days.
Yeah, I love that. Genuine, deep, meaningful relationships. I love that. And the fact that you've brought, your wife, Tammy, and of course your brother on, who have really kind of adopted that same model, and you've coached them how to do that. They already have a sphere of influence with them. And so you've really just taught them how to, work with that sphere and develop that relationship and set those expectations. that they're that value piece. I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts with Bold too. I think, within our organization, Bold, of course, for those that aren't familiar with it, is a 8-week training session that Keller Williams and Diana Kokoska developed. And I think a lot of it kind of like broccoli. I actually love broccoli, but a lot of people don't love broccoli, but we all know how healthy it is, right? And Bold's not easy. I mean, Bold's not, it's 7 sessions over 8 weeks, and it's not, it's very inspiring. It's very challenging. It really pushes you. And you come out much stronger and better, and it can really impact your business if you allow it. Or you can go into it like sometimes my kids have over the years with broccoli or other greens, and you can just fight it and be miserable about it and hate it. I've grown to love broccoli.
Is that just food or family members, as you mentioned, other greens?
Fair enough. I was referencing food, but we can go to other family members. Yeah. But broccoli, is so healthy, and I love it now, right? And for many of us, we have Bold people that go to Bold over and over and over again because they've really adopted and loved it. And they also know that that they're going to be uncomfortable at some point during that process, but it helps them get the results. And it's fun to hear. I mean, that's remarkable that you did that kind of business in November and December, which traditionally is such a slow month for our industry. And for you to do that kind of business in relationship to what you had done previous so far that year is pretty remarkable. We just had Bold here in the state of Utah. For those that did attend, we will be doing it again in the fall. So if you're in the area, I would highly, highly encourage it. And then I also wanted to make one other thing that was, I think, important for listeners to hear, because you've talked about how you've really coached and helped support people and on your team to get the kind of business that you guys are doing. Plus, now you've brought on, a salaried staff member, and that's not very easy for a lot of us. In fact, we see over and over in business, in our industry, our agents generally haven't been trained on how to do that. And so we see a high failure rate in people bringing on assistants or trying to really start to leverage their business, succeeding through others. And we have probably, one of the very best training events for that coming up on July 19th and 20th at the Salt Lake Community College, called Career Visioning. And people can register for that at kwutah.com. It was interesting. I was just talking with one of our agents there in the Layton office, Blaine, Jason Lewis, who I'm sure you know. And he was actually telling me that he had signed up for Career Vision. He wasn't aware that it was actually coming to Utah in a few weeks. He had signed up for it to go attend it in Boise. And I asked him a little bit about why he decided to go attend it. And he said that he was finding himself going head to head with a couple other agents who were also hiring for their teams. And he said he was getting his butt kicked on the hiring process. And when he asked, it was actually, in this case, he was referencing Spring Benson. And he said, when I spoke to Spring about what her secret was, she said, I just go through the career visioning process. And he said, I'm not going to keep getting beat by Spring over and over again on this hiring process. I got to figure this out. So anyways, I can't tell you how much it's impacted my life. I would highly recommend getting registered for Career Visioning. We've got a great instructor, July 19th and 20th, Salt Lake Community College, and that's at kwutah.com to register. So sorry to get sidetracked, but a couple just really good nuggets that you were sharing there that I wanted to leverage off a little bit. Okay, so first of all, congratulations on your huge success and all that you're accomplishing. Tell us a little bit about what your goal is for this coming year, and maybe over the next handful of years. What does your business look like, and what are those things that are getting you excited about your growth?
You bet. So we have a lofty goal this year of closing 100 units as a team here. And so we're working really hard toward that. It's kind of one of those milestone numbers. And again, the funny thing is I always used to tell myself, I just don't need to do that amount of business. It's not in my cards, and it's okay. And until you really pound out why and what I can be doing for others, now it makes sense. Before I thought it was a greed thing, or, how much money can I possibly make? And as I've matured and grown and learned and learned from others, I realized that, man, that's not it. It's what I can be doing to help my kids, my family, and then therefore other families. And so we have a lofty goal of closing 100 units this year. And so to all my people out there that I know that are watching, first of all, thank you. And second of all, we do appreciate you and all your referrals. So keep them coming. We'd love to take care of them. So we got on track for 100 units this year. And a lot of that is just going to be continuing to hone our skills and just be the best possible real estate team that we can be out there. And so our focus right now is helping a lot of families, but also finding out what makes it the best experience, and then finding out how to reproduce that time and time again. So I would say that's our major focus for the next 2 years.
Awesome. And then maybe in closing, would you share with the group any kind of books or trainings, events, things? Obviously, you mentioned Mega Camp, but what are some of the other really things that have had interviews, podcasts, whatever, that you feel like have had an impact on shaping your career and how you think about business or life, et cetera?
Sure. So let's be honest, I'm not a big book guy. I should read more than I do, but that's lower. But I've enjoyed so many great things and learning from so many. I think one of the greatest things that I can attribute to what I've got going on now is our office. You kind of touched on it earlier, but I love watching seasoned agents come over here, and even new agents at that, and they say, I know the name of this person. They're almost kind of a Hall of Famer, right? You know, they have these big names and these big businesses, and they say, and their door was open for me to come in, you know. Or we take these seasoned agents that come in and maybe they're head-to-head competitors. And, you know, and I had this personal experience when I came in where, you know, somebody that we know a lot of the same people, and, you know, we both have a big business, and, you know, they helped me with my listing presentation and said, you know what, you really need to add this in there because you have such a value there and you need to let people know about that. And the whole time I'm scratching my head going, wait a minute, we compete, right? You know, what are we doing here? And so, but so many agents come from a place of abundance out of our office, and I think that is just true. There's so many skilled and knowledgeable and talented people that work out of our office, and to be able to go next door and say, hey, can you help me out with this, or I'm struggling with this, or what do you think about that, and have them help you instead of, you know, coming from that place of, why are you doing business? Why do you have so many people? What's going on in your business? And so that just is the world to me out at this office here in Layton. So I think that I attribute a lot of it to that. Secondly, I know back in, I think, 2016, Ben Kenny, he came here to a training right here in Layton, actually, and I've just man-crushed on that guy a little bit since I met him, and you know, his story's just so touching. But, you know, to get to the position where he's at, where it's not make a million, it's make a million, give a million. And man, what a heart to work that hard to be able to give back that much. And so that really helped me with answering some of those whys of, you know, this guy, you know, and his story and what he's doing and what I can potentially do. And then I think the last one that I'll attribute to is I went up to Idaho and I saw Tim Heil. And same thing, you know, young guy, and he's just been very purposeful and very systematic in what he's done with his business. And to rewind back to Mega Camp, it came down to, it's simple, right? You know, it's simple, not easy. But most of what you see in Mega Camp, you go, man, if they can do that, I can do that. You know, they're not running a crazy business. They're getting in their niche, and they're running with it. They're not trying to do 100 different things to solve one problem. You know, they're really focused on one thing, and they're keeping it super simple. So those have been my biggest takeaways here in the last couple of years.
Yeah, love that. And I think that just echoes what you said about our office on a national level, which is, I think, something that's really unique about our culture. And that's, you know, the top people are really coming from a place of contribution and willing to share. And in part, maybe that's part because of our profit share program, and it's just inherent in our culture. But, you know, the Tim Hiles and the Ben Kennys of the world, who are mega producers, just some of the top producers in the entire country, and in the industry, flat out, just incredible producers, are willing to and love sharing with and giving back and telling agents exactly what they're doing and how they're doing it. And that's pretty unique. I know when we did our pre-call, one of the things, and I received from our notes that, you talk about the support at home that you've been given, that has allowed you really to have the success that you've had. And I just need to honor that, because I think there's such great truth around that. In every instance, when there's trouble at home, that always shows up in work, and vice versa. And so, how fortunate I've been, and I appreciate that you had brought that up, just what great value and how grateful you are that you've had that support from home as you ventured off into a pretty challenging new career.
Absolutely. And just to fulfill that, I mean, if we're not right outside of work, we're not going to be right inside of work. And so, I've taken my family on some crazy, but it all hasn't been, roses for the last 12 years. I mean, at business, at home, everything. We all have our struggles, our obstacles, and everything there. But I can say at the end of the day, knowing that you have your back, 100% by when you go home, that, hey, I'm going to do this, or we're doing this, or, we have this adventure. I never got questioned. They all said, hey, we're along for the ride. And it's funny because they probably should have pushed back on a couple things, but I'm glad they didn't. But just knowing that, I can run with these crazy thoughts that go on in my head and do some of the things that I want to do. And they say, you know what, let's do it. You haven't failed us in a real negative affecting way yet. I mean, has everything gone my way? Absolutely not. But I've worked hard. If I've made a decision, I've fought through what I've needed to do for them. And therefore they trust and respect and love me to go on whatever I want to bring with them.
Yeah. Awesome. And ultimately, that was one of the things that was most compelling to me about the company is, it wasn't okay just for me to have business success. If I wasn't having success in my personal life and with my family, then there was no value in having business success. And I love that we talk about that and are focused on that as a company, and as a group, really, as a group of people committed to growing personally, developing personally. Okay, so how do people find you? Where is it best for people if they'd like to reach out or connect or follow along? How best to reach you?
Hey, you just watch for the Blaine train to come choo-chooing through town. We're everywhere. Come find us. But no, really, we'd love for you to reach out. I'm easy on Facebook, just Blaine Larsen. Or you can follow Larsen Realty Group. Please jump over to our page. We try to have some really good stuff on there for you. But I'm also old-fashioned. Pick up the phone and call me, 801-452-5413. Whether you're looking to do real estate business, whether you have questions about the business, whether you're thinking about getting in the business, whether you're in the business, whatever it is, I'd love to chat with you and feel free to pick my brain and I'm pretty easy to track down, I think.
Blaine, can't thank you enough for being on with us today, letting us pick your brain and for your willingness to just share your story, your experiences. Of course, I'm looking forward to tomorrow. We've got a group of guys going to ride the Wasatch Crest. I'm going to immediately send Tammy a text right now after that. She's not to allow you to leave wearing super tight biker shorts. I know she thinks you look great in them, but the rest of us don't need to see that. So, all right, my friend.
No spandex.
no spandex on tomorrow's rides. All right, thank you so much. Appreciate everyone joining us today. Again, that's our show for Real Insights Live. It is June 27th, 2018. Beautiful day outside here in Utah. And we continue to stay committed to updating you on the real estate market, both nationally and here in Utah, and share with you stories from some of the top agents in our industry, compelling stories, people that are having great challenges, good success. And I hope you'll continue to join us for future episodes. Thank you. That's it. Have a great day.